And the sound of the bell signals the return to school for traders. It's September. Can we expect volumes to normalize in the gold market again? Joining me this week is Frank Holmes for Gold Game Film. Next. Frank, thanks for joining us.
It's great to be here Tuesday morning after a spectacular long weekend.
So, Frank, traders are back at their desks this week, and gold opened up this morning at a 10-week low. However, you are optimistic that September could be a good month for gold. How do you see it?
Well, I think one of the big factors is we like to do these probabilities and look at them. They're never 100% certainty, but there are interesting cyclical patterns that we have. In fact, this past several weeks, I've written about it on our Investor Alert and Frank Talk on looking at the seasonal patterns for stocks. There's the famous 4-year presidential election cycle. There's the annual gold cycle. And then you have what are the best months and worst months. And Yale Hirsch, the Hirsch organization, basically went out to the best weeks of the month and best days of the week. So I like this because they give you a 60 to 70% probability. And historically, September is a big rally month for the price of gold. And the big driver of that is the love trade.
Frank, let's get to our OT segment now. Opportunities and threats in the gold market. Let's start with opportunities and Indian gold demand with the festival season starting. What are you seeing?
I think you're going to have India's turn. Positive economic data points out of India. Their stock market's been doing exceptionally well. They all follow the stock market. It's amazing when you're there in India and you watch television. There are so many TV programs that have the ticker tape up and are talking about the stocks. And also they talk about gold. It's on every piece of media, which you don't see in Canada. And if you're in the U.S., or Canada is very exclusive TV stations continuously covering the news. So wealth effect will, I think, drive gold with that, in addition to that love trade is a key factor.
Frank, and you mentioned the S&P, and it ended the month of August hitting a 32nd record of the year. Is a top out looming for the S&P, and could this be an opportunity for gold?
Well, I think the bigger part is yes, and I think it's very healthy that the U.S. is leading the charge because the rest of the world is not. Europe is saying, in gold terms, is doing exceptionally well. The thoughts are that the euro has to basically go to par to the dollar to really get their economic engine on side. They're wrestling with deflation, but I think gold in euro terms is going to remain very, very strong. And the dollar terms, no, it's going to languish as it is seeing it hit a low today because the U.S. is not only a safe currency with all the strife in the Middle East and ISIS and Ukraine, it is also one of the strongest GDPs of the world. GDP numbers will come out this week. We're looking back. I think they're going to be very robust. And looking forward, which is ISM or the PMIs for the U.S., remain very muscular, very powerful relative to the rest of the world, whereas China took a dip. Sadly, the data points came out in China were the opposite of the U.S., where the PMI for 1 month has gone below the 3 months. And that's a reverse from December of last year.
Frank, let's get to threats now. We saw the U.S. manufacturing sector expand in August. Could this be a precursor to the other economic data to be released this week? And could this be a threat to gold?
I just think it's very constructive. The U.S. dollar will be positive because on a relative basis to what's taking place in Europe and Japan, America has the most muscle.
In your opinion, though, Frank, what is the biggest threat to gold right now?
The biggest threat is lack of fiscal policies. Europe needs fiscal policies, and that means deregulation, streamlining regulations. A German finance minister recently said that they've exhausted the monetary policies. How much cheaper can they make money? But who cares if you say the money's cheap, but you can't borrow? So I think that that's the real sort of no strategy to basically reinvent fiscal policy is going to be a negative.
Frank, let's get to your touchdown pass of the week. We have the ECB, we have non-farm payrolls. What could it be? What's the touchdown pass for gold?
It could be the ECB finally coming out with some strong fiscal stimulus to drive economic activity. But I don't see any phenomenal Kenny Hill touchdown passes like we had this past week, where everyone expected Texas A&M to lose. And not only did they win, Kenny Hill set an all-time record. So I don't think we're going to have that in the capital markets unless there's a huge economic revolution in Europe where they truly say we're going to streamline taxes and regulations.
Frank, thanks so much. That's all the time we have this week. We'll see you next Monday. And thank you for watching this edition of Gold Game Film. You can email us at newsfeedback@kitco.com.